CEO politicians who try to bring their skills from the boardroom into the White House. I'm joined by author Michael Useem. He's a professor of management and director of Leadership Center at Wharton Business School. So you know a little bit about something about leadership. What's the difference? Somebody who runs a big company and is, let's not argue about whether it's successful or not, but is there a similarity between running a company and running a state or a country?
Yeah, Philip, people who run a company, they've got a head start in two areas. They know how to make things happen. They know how to get a lot of people to show up and get the work done during the day, and they can count the money at the end of the year very well. And number two, they usually, though not always, have managed to grow, build, bring people in. So when it comes to what we call execution of business and economic growth and more jobs, business leaders usually, but not always, as you've already pointed out, can have a good record, and that unequivocally will help them in politics. The shortcoming, of course, is that running a country or a state, for that matter, or a city even, requires an additional skill set. Need those two, but you need more. And somebody who's been brought up in business typically hasn't had to worry about the other until suddenly there they are, president of a country, maybe the governor of a state, or in Congress.
Well, look, I'm sure you guys teach this as they did it when I was going to school, but running a company involves making money. That's one of the main goals. Whereas running a state or a country, the goal isn't to make money. The goal is to essentially spend money wisely. Those two, how different are they?
Well, the parallel is that there's a basic underlying, call it a leadership skill set of being able to set forward a goal and get people rallied around it, whether it's making money or paving better roads. So the underlying capacity, call it execution, is important. But this is where people in business often fall flat in politics. Politics, you pointed out, is about much more than that, or maybe not even that. And I think a good business person, we'll see what happens to Carly Fiorina in the political arena, will succeed if they can learn that extra the extra thing of how to think about what a country needs, how to set a vision, how to lead with very ambiguous authority, and those kinds of challenges typically people in business have not faced before.
I mean, to be honest, isn't that a fancy way to say that they need people to like them? I mean, one of the things with Bill Clinton and Bush and Reagan, I mean, you can argue about this a lot of ways, but they had strong personal appeal. People felt connected to them. People felt like they liked them. They wanted to have a cup of coffee with them. With the CEO or your boss or my boss, some people might be intimidated by that. You're not necessarily best friends with your boss. Isn't there an element of personality that's there?
Yeah, it's a huge factor, Philip, and I tend to just sum that up with the word character. People want to follow people that are appealing, are clear-minded, are generous of spirit. Call that character. And some people in business, like any other walk of life, have it, and some don't. So that's also a necessary, if not always a sufficient condition.
We've talked often a lot about why Romney didn't get elected. I think the same thing could be done with a lot of other folks. Is there was never that connection with people. People never felt like that person was going to represent me, look out for my interest. And typically, when you're running a company, the bosses aren't really looking out for your interests. It's just not sort of second nature. How can a CEO like Carly Fiorina and others like her convince people that he or she is going to look out for the little guy?
Well, you know, so many companies now run less by authoritative sending directives down and more by getting people to salute in a way that they all want to move in. So think about how Google operates. It's not a hierarchy in that traditional sense. And people coming out of that kind of background are often going to be better for the kind of the messy nature of politics. But back to the sharper edge now on this issue of character. Some people in business, those working for them, they look at the boss and they think, that's the kind of person I want to be with, I want to be around. And of course, there's the opposite. And it's that a little hard to define element of character that can appeal in business, and some have it, and certainly is important in politics, especially in politics where there's no handshake with most people. Our country, 300 and some million people, you've really got to be able to project that character, that sense that people ought to really want to be with you through the media, through social media, through television, and well beyond.
So Professor, I'm going to change your title, if you don't mind, to political consultant for this next question. If you're advising people
Sure.
like Fiorina or other folks who used to be on the business side and are trying to get into politics, what advice would you give them specifically on that character issue that you just brought up? What do they have to do to prove themselves that they can hang out and be sort of the common folk, but at the same time be a professional administrator?
Yeah, I think it's one of the great conundrums, if you will, to be all of the above, even though they can seem a little bit contradictory in terms of the qualities you've named. I think authenticity is a word we tend to throw around, which I think is a pretty good one. People really want to know you're the real thing, that you're the real you. And projecting that out, communicating that, absolutely vital, and you can't be inauthentically authentic. There really has to be you. Having said that, I think so many people, certainly in U.S. politics, voters, want those that can create great jobs, strengthen the economy, get things done in that sense. And I think that's what the business people are going to have as their strong suit. Where they're going to come short, and this is the place I would render some advice, politics is not business. And if you think you're going to run the country like a company, you're not going to be long for that office.
Yeah, it's going to be a very frustrating experience. I'll also throw in there, if you don't mind, when you're CEO of a company, you don't have that thing called Congress behind you trying to second guess you 24/7. Professor, great to have you on.
No, it's a... All right, great to be on.